Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Empowered Mama Summit. Today, I have a very special guest, Maru Labichela, who is the Queen of Infinite Receiving. Maru, thank you so much for being here. Will you share with the moms that are tuning in a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Carmen. And I'm so glad we're able to make it happen because we had so many technical issues getting here. So it's so good to be recording and to be, collaborating on this awesome interview that I'm sure is going to help a lot of moms with not being people pleasers and not being overgiving to their own detriment, right? And you introduced me as the Queen of Infinite Receiving, and people are wondering, what the hell is that? Who the heck does she think she is? She calls herself a queen. I didn't call myself. She called me that, number one. And number two, I guess I've gotten that title because I'm the founder of this movement called Infinite Receiving, which is all things blue, all things out of the blue. I only wear blue. It's all about blue because blue is the color of the infinite. And what I found is that I was trying really, really hard to make my business successful, my life successful, using my brain power, using my fears. I was fear powered. I was in survival mode for so long. And when everything came to a halt, became a single mom, I had no money, no gas in the house. Just so many doors closed in my face, literally, in record time. After being an entrepreneur for almost 3 years with a 3-year-old, I was like, I give up. Like, this is not the dream. This is not what I gave my career up for. I worked in corporate for 10 years. I have an MBA. I speak multiple languages. I'm like, this doesn't look like what I hoped, would be the dream. And so I was like, fine, God, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. And basically what I realized at that point, after a series of I literally had a vision, I heard a voice, and I had this very sort of spiritual experience that taught me that what I was asking for and what I was working towards, I had no capacity to receive. And what this means is that I discovered an index, I discovered a metric almost that not very many people know about. I didn't even know about it. And it's the thing that is preventing most people from getting what they want, is basically the index or the measure is your capacity to receive what you're asking for. So a lot of people will say, I want to be on Oprah. I want to have a best-selling book. I want to have a man. I want to have money. I want to be on a yacht. I want to pay my dad's house off and all this stuff. And yet what you're asking for and what you're stating you say you want, deep down, you don't even think that's possible for you. So my work in Infinite Receiving is about really opening people up to receiving all that they're asking for. And that work is diligent, my friend. It's not easy, especially for empowered, successful, driven women. I know you are, you and me, you are me are you, it's like we're the same. It's like we want results now. And if I do the work, if I do what Oprah told me to do, then it should work. Well, it's not like that because we're all different. And so my work is about helping people receive infinitely, because what happens is, you cannot infinitely receive all that the universe has for you in a 12-ounce container. You can't, you gotta grow your container. And, it's to grow your container. It's kind of like to have your hips wide open, for your kid to come through. It's not comfortable. Yeah. And most of us are trying to produce a child, in terms of birthing a successful, fully functioning body, of work or whatever, through a hole that's not dilated. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. And my work is truly an expansion, and in helping people navigate the anatomy of expansion, which is not comfortable, at times, and it can be a really positive experience. So that's kind of my contribution to the world. And it's been absolutely incredible. I'm blessed beyond belief since this voice message vision came to me. I have, I tell everybody now, it's like I have 42,000 miles in my American Airlines account. Just from this year.
Wow.
Just from this year. And I feel very blessed because of that, because I've been getting paid to go share my message internationally now. I just got back from Brazil. I was in Dubai in May speaking to groups of women. And so I really hope you pay attention because what I'm going to share with you can really impact the way that people react to you, can really impact the way you accept yourself, the way that you move forward in times of crisis or in times of not enoughness. I'm not perfect by any means, but I have my tools, I have my system, I have my people that accept me just crazy, not crazy, PMSing, not PMSing, whatever I need to do to feel like that capacity is open and I'm an open channel to get all the things that I'm asking for.
Yeah, there's so much that I love about what you just said. I mean, obviously, what I work on is helping women kind of create and protect their legacies. And so you are doing that. Like, you are living out your legacy essentially, right? You touching hundreds and thousands at some point, right? Of people through infinite receiving and through your messaging. And that's going to be your legacy. Like, that will be, and it's probably it's just the beginning, right? This is
It is
only,
just the beginning.
this
Yeah,
is just the beginning.
I'm hoping that this time next year, I will only be able to do just a handful of this types of interviews, because I'm so busy with all that stuff. So
well, even coordinate, like from when I, connected with you last year till now, like, it's been amazing to see the growth and how quickly and, even just coordinating with your schedule now to get this interview done. Like, you are like, on a rocket ship, like on your way, like out of this like world, like already. And so I think it's fabulous. And I love that so much. If you had a tip for, the women so there's lots of issues that come up, right, as moms, whether we're being a good enough mom, whether, we're doing things the right way, whether we are enough to even like reach for our dreams. Like, if you had something, one tip or one piece of advice for the moms that are tuning in who are kind of in this place of stuckness and wanting more for their life and knowing that they're meant for a bigger impact, like, what would be that, one piece of advice, maybe first action step or anything that could help them in creating their legacy and their impact?
Yes. I would definitely say that anything that gives you guilt, shame, or anything that causes you to feel that you're not doing a good job or that is not good enough, that's not true. It's your mind, is your comparison, because you're not doing good compared to what your mom, the way your mom raised you, the way your grandma raised your mom. There's always an element of comparison. Every time you go into I'm not doing this right, or I'm not doing this the right way, or the right way according to who, you're comparing yourself to something. So I just had a call about this with my Infinite Receiving Tribe. It was like to catch yourself, because awareness can help interrupt the shame storm, or the going into a closet, beating yourself up, for guilt or shame. And just catch yourself every time you start retreating into guilt or shame. It's basically you thinking you're the only one, because the minute what I found in my career and in my life is that, I've been in the money shame closet, I've been in the men shame closet, I've been in the overweight shame closet, I've been in so many of them. And what I found is that I'm never alone. And I think the ego, the mind, will always have you comparing yourself so that you're not as empowered as you can be. So the one thing I want to tell you is become aware of any thoughts or any time in your lives or during a day where you feel like, I'm a disconnected mom. Like, I deal with that a lot. I'm addicted to my phone. Social media actually pays me. And I sometimes feel horrible. My son told me a few days ago, he's like, can you do this before you get busy on your phone? I was like, oh my God, he's so intelligent to even tell me that. And I had to put my hand on my heart and be like, I am so proud of you for recognizing my action. And I just felt proud of him actually for being so articulate that at 4 years old, he can say that. And then I was like, ouch, that hurts that he can actually see when mommy goes into busy mode. But you know what I mean? But I'm able to talk about it without feeling like, not going into the future and thinking like, well, that must mean that I'm a terrible person and bad mom. And then he's going to, no, I'm like, he's actually a really intelligent person to recognize it and to say it. So I feel like my stomach churning just talking about that. I haven't told anyone that, but that's the thing. Have you ever felt that?
Well, yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because a couple of weeks ago, I went to grab my phone and my daughter was doing something. She's 2. And she was like, no phone, mommy, no phone. And I was like, And I had that initial like, holy crap, I'm a horrible mom, like that my kid recognizes that I'm on my phone this much, but I'm connecting or I'm engaging with people on social media, I'm checking emails. And it was just, first for me, it was like that reminder, like, you know what, when she's here, be present with her. And then
Right.
it'll be, delegating the work time and the family time. But then also like, she's watching, just that reminder that she's watching me,
Right,
and
right.
that she's aware and wanting to make sure that I can keep her in that awareness, because with society we get so conditioned to do the comparison stuff. And so acknowledging where I am in this moment where she is, and wanting to maintain her awareness and be like, you know what, it's okay, she's recognizing it, and it's just the reminder to be more present with her. So
Right. Well, thanks for sharing that, because
yeah,
it's not comfortable. It's never comfortable to
yeah,
recognize that you're not the only one messing
yeah,
something up or someone up.
yeah,
But you're not alone, and you just
yeah,
had this moment here about sharing like a vulnerable moment. But how many times do you think to yourself that on a daily basis, you mom listening to this, right? And it's normal, and then you can maybe make a different choice, or to me, the journey that I'm on is one of self-acceptance, is because I lived in comparison and in beating myself up for not being ahead or not being like, the person on Instagram is. And that just led me to being broke and broken, and broken home, broken this, broken that, and everything is connected, so I just really want to say, catch yourself when you go into comparison mode, into I'm not enough, I'm guilty, I'm bad, my kid just said this outcome. Everybody's thinking it. So might as well tell someone about it, and then you just liberate a bunch of people in the process.
yeah,
Listen, this is the first generation, that of women that we're raising kids that, have this access to technology at 2, 3, 4 years old. Like, my son's not on the iPad nearly as much as a lot of kids are. We have an iPad, and I read stories to him on that. I've been getting in the habit of reading stories to him at night. That's new. I didn't do that when, until maybe a year, like 6 months ago, maybe, because I found some actually fun books. And so anyway, it's just, maybe some people have been reading to their kids since before they were born. I'm not one of those moms. So just be your own mom, and your kid chose you for a reason. Like, I do believe that our kids, whether you believe in soul, this or that, like, I believe that if your kid was born to you, is because you're the perfect mother and sometimes father for that kid.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And there's so much, it's funny about just the self-acceptance and like loving ourselves fully, so that we can open ourselves up to receive, right? Because I know I've been working with you over a year now, I think, or almost a
yeah.
year. And my transition, people notice it, like I've noticed it, just in opening up and like breaking through these beliefs and these conditions that we've been that we've been taught to learn, and
Right.
are taking on other people's stories and things that don't belong to us. But I think that idea of self-acceptance and just fully connecting with who you are and what your values are, and figuring out, almost like living with purpose and intention, right? Because it's so
Yes.
easy to get into the 9 to 5, to work to pay the mortgage, to live the American dream, whatever that means, right? And then people get stuck and they're miserable and they get sick, and there's all these things that come up. Um, if you were to, for the women that are watching, like, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but a purpose-filled life is important, right? Like, when you wake up in the morning, doing things intentionally, where you are, creating, whether it's a mindset, it's a morning ritual, whatever that is, what would you say is, or why would you say living a purpose-filled life or living more intentionally is important? And how does that help in opening up yourself to receive more from the universe or God?
Well, here's the thing is, there's many camps in the world, people that believe like me that, we're all here for a purpose, that you're not some accident, some cosmic accident, that you were, born to just go through the motions and one day die. Obviously you don't believe that you believe that everybody has a legacy. And I believe that however you're living your life is your legacy. I fully align and believe that, my life is my message. And I chose to adopt that as a philosophy, mentality, way of life in 2010, after visiting Gandhi's house. And that was like right above his bed. Like, it said, my life is my message. And I was like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
That I just cried. And I was like, that's true, because you can teach whatever you want, but if you're not really living it, then, so for me, that's very important, so that gives me a sense of responsibility and a sense of that everything I'm doing, great, not so great, it's my message. And that's why I'm so vulnerable and so transparent, because I just, I'm living this human life in a, imperfectly perfect way. And that's just not how I was raised. It's like I was raised to save face, especially moving to the States at 18, to this culture that is all about like looking good, having the perfect resume, like don't upset the conventions. So where am I going with this? So message, legacy, responsibility, living my life in a way. So that gives me the sense that I want to be intentional. Am I always nailing all my intentions? Like, do I set an intention to lose weight and stick with it and then, become Miss Universe in the timeline I set out to do it? No, no. Everything is a journey. And I find that intention, it's kind of like the magic ingredient, for results. Because if we just, I believe more in intention than goals. That is something that I do believe in. But for me, intention is kind of like the magic powder you put on like your reality and the universe and your life to say, okay, I want all these ducks to align in this row. Right. And that row is like, I want to have a new family, or I want to create a livelihood doing what I love, whatever that intention is. And I just find that if you don't set that intention, if you're just kind of living your life in a way that the like society intended you to do it, then you're going to be living someone else's intentions. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do believe that everybody's different. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts, some people are, they get their energy from just routine and reading and meditating, or just living a normal. You're probably not listening to this if you're one of them.
Yeah.
No, you're not. And some people are like that, and I respect them. Sometimes I wanted everybody to convert to my way of life and my way of seeing the world, and that's not realistic either. So I just now focus on those who are ready to listen and who want to be coached and who want to live more intentionally. But I do recommend everyone to, it's kind of like if you go to cook, which I don't know a lot about, but if you went to cook and you're just like, I'm just gonna see what comes, what happens. Kind of like, I'll just put this cinnamon and this bell pepper, and this olive oil, and this expired chocolate milk, and just like, put it all together and say, well, maybe you come up with a magic love potion, or you get really sick, or, I don't know what can come from that craziness, of no intention of like, I'll just put something together here, whatever. Or maybe you have a recipe, or you're like, I don't know exactly what is going to come out of this, but I want to do something really yummy. I want to create something really yummy, and then maybe with that intention, you're going to have better ideas, and you're going to think of like, oh, there's this in this drawer. I didn't remember that I had this, and maybe let's add this. And then, you'll be magically surprised.
Yeah. And I love that you use kind of the cooking analogy, because I love to cook. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm a firm believer that, because my mom would cook. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this, and her food was very bland. Like, it was very, like, hard to digest. And I would tell her, now that I'm older, and I'm like, when you cook, you have to put like love into it. Like, you have to intentionally, like, say, this is going to be the most amazing meal, no matter what it is, but you put that intention and that love into it. And I genuinely believe that it comes out into the food that you're cooking. And I love that analogy, because it's like, all of these things that you have going on, is if you put it out into the world with, the intention that, you're going to manifest whatever is, you're going to, whether it's the new man, it's the new job, it's, a certain income level, and you just put it out there with that intention and that deep belief. I know you talk a lot about believability, so that's the next thing that I'm going to go to with you. Sure. But is this, this deep rooted belief that it'll happen, then it's going to come out amazing one way or another. Like, it may not look amazing on the outside, but the lessons that come from it are going to be absolutely just right on.
100%.
Yeah. And so around the believability, because I know I struggled with this, and I know that, I'm sure a lot of the moms that are on here, it's this idea of, these are my goals and my dreams. These are my income levels. This is what I want to get to. But deep down, do I really believe that I can make that happen? Deep down, do I believe that I'm worthy of it? Like, can you talk to us a little bit about like this idea of believability? Because I know that, there's an exercise you have us do around that.
Let's see if I remember it. No, I do know what believability is. I actually came up with that. I create a lot of my own stuff, and it doesn't come from my head. It comes from my mission, and that I really want to help women accept themselves and receive and know that receiving is not for a select few, that receiving is available to all of us, but it's just, we don't believe that I can have the life that maybe somebody else has. And so therefore, guess what? If you don't believe in Santa Claus, like, is it going to be the same to you? No. Whatever you don't believe in, it's just not going to, basically this is what I teach. I teach that in order to receive, you have to first believe, right? And it's funny, like The Secret teaches it's like a duh concept, but we take it for granted. That's the thing, is like in the law of attraction, supposedly the formula is ask, believe, receive. And everybody knows how to ask. They take receiving for granted. They think that if you meditate, journal, pray, draw, visualize, that's enough. And it's not enough, because you have to have the space and the disposition to receive it. But in between asking and receiving, there's believing. And if you don't believe that what you're asking for can come true for you, then that tells me, number one, that whatever you're wishing or asking or praying for, you've put on a pedestal. And my definition of pedestals is, anything that you think it's impossible for you is a pedestal. Anything like, meeting somebody or having a man or having a happy family. Do you resonate with them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So check yourselves, all of you listening, and even you, Carmen, because this interview has always happened for all the parties. Neither her or I are gurus at anything. Like, we're great at, in our own lane, in our zone of genius, and we're always open to learning, because that's why we do this. That's why I do what I do. And so anything that you think it's like impossible for you, but you're still wanting it, you're still praying for it, like, you've put on a pedestal, and pedestals put you down. They put yourself beneath the thing. And the first step towards believing that impossible thing can happen for you is to literally, like, in your mind, you need to bring it down and say, like, I have this anecdote of meeting Alanis Morissette. Like, I've always said to myself, in my lifetime, I'm going to meet Alanis Morissette and Shakira. Like, I'm going to meet him. So I met Alanis Morissette, and finally it happened. And like, when I met her, I like literally like jumped into her arms. And I was like, I scared the crap out of her. And we had 5 days together in a very intimate retreat. And she literally was like afraid of me, talking to everybody, taking pictures, and like for me. And it's because it was such an impossibility that when it happened, I was like, oh my God. So this fangirly thing, not seeing her as like, some like a peer or something, like totally pushed her away. Yeah. And that really healed me from this pedestal thing. Cause I was like, wow, not only what you put on a pedestal, you're kind of putting yourself in, like, you're inferior to it, you're beneath it. And so energetically speaking, it's like up and away from you. There's such distance between that. Yeah. And of course you're not going to believe it. And then when it happens, you like, you want to hold on to it to dear life with fear that you squeeze the oxygen out of it. It's like you're like strangling the thing, literally. That so it's like it doesn't last. So I tell people, like, whoever you want to be like, or whoever's footsteps you want to follow, whatever dream you want to manifest in your life, like, if you've had it, basically, I always have one of these, like an acorn, like it's like if it was planted in you, there's an oak tree in here, you guys. Like, there's an oak tree. I don't need to. Well, maybe it's dead now. I don't know, 'cause it's but my point is like there's the technology inside of this seed to turn into the biggest, or most amazing giant plant tree. Right? Like in this little seed. It's the same with your dreams. It's like okay, I'm not believing there's an oak tree in here. I'm not believing there's an oak tree in here. Well, clearly it's really hard to visualize or picture that, if this were to be that the biggest, and I was just in Northern Cal, where you live, by the way, that we can see each other, but that's where I got it from. It's at the Redwood, what is it?
I think the Redwood Forest. There's like
a Redwood Forest.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, the biggest redwoods are there. Like the biggest ones, like the ones that are like, 200,000 years old or something. And I'm like, wow, it's just hard to believe that from from a cereal flake, something the size of a cereal flake, the biggest tree can be born. But your dreams were planted in you, or your wishes or your visions, like, were given to you, and they have in themselves the technology and the mechanisms, to grow themselves, and you just don't have to allow it. But so many of us just put our brain limitations on them. Like, well, but not even Carmen has done that. How will I do it? Not even Mara, like, how will I do it? It's just like, stop, So
Yeah.
a lot of this work is about truly getting yourself out of the way. And we all need way showers. We all need people to come before us, because to show us what's possible,
Yeah.
Nobody could have ever beat Usain Bolt, who just lost the reigning gold medal as the world champion for the fastest man on earth. Nobody could have beat him, like, if he hadn't set the bar so high. But someone had been practicing, to do that, or to beat the 4-minute mile, or whatever that is, if that hadn't been done before. So others coming before you will increase your believability, knowing that the dream doesn't have to start big, and you don't have to get immediate evidence, but you have to work towards it. I think pregnancy is one of the most beautiful ways of believing, the impossible. It's like, how do you, one day you have sex and, like 2 cells join, and then, like, next thing you know, there's like this crying, gorgeous,
There's like a new human.
human, and we all have that capability, and your dreams are so similar, but you definitely need to surround yourself by people like us, messages like this, so that you can believe, because it's easy not to.
And I think the one thing, this idea of pedestals, and I think it's, it doesn't have to be like something big. Like, even it's like, oh, I want to travel more. Like, oh, I wish I could travel more, like, get as many miles in a year as, Maru, or I can, take trips to, to Paris like Carmen, or, be in LA every other weekend, or whatever it is, it's, little things like that you're putting on pedestals. And so you're still, it's still out beyond your reach, because you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. And it's like, okay, well,
yeah, I'm going to write that down, because it's such a lot of people are like, I don't resonate with that. And I'm like, oh, let me just dig in your brain 1 minute, and I'll find like 10. I'm the same way. Like, I put moms that go back to their original weight fast, like, I put them on pedestals. I'm like, how do you do that? I put your metabolism on a pedestal. It's like, it's like I'm still carrying the same weight that I gained when, in my pregnancy. I have it on, and I don't have a baby in me, or at least I don't think, it's like, it's like, you never know what people are putting on pedestals. That I recognized recently, that I put people by nature and by the sea, I put them on a pedestal. I'm like, I don't know how they can have access to that much to do. Like, I just live in the suburbs, however you say that, in Fort Worth, Texas, and like, our options are, in my head, are kind of limited. And so every time I just came back from Rio, and like, people have the beach and the partying and the big companies and like everything in place, and I'm like, that's not possible for me. It's like, I just don't know how that, whatever. So figure out what is you. If it's on a pedestal, you're not believing it, for sure. I promise you that. It's harder to believe. What else? Bring it. What do you want to know?
Oh, I was like, well, just kind of like this, this idea of legacy, and, thank you so much for your time right now. And in terms of, women who want to, this kind of like idea of legacy, like, what does legacy mean to you? And, what are any tips for the moms who want to, who are working towards creating theirs? I know that you said that your life is your message, and that I think is so key and so important. I love that so much, but tell me what you think legacy is, and what that means to you.
I've never been asked this question, so I'm processing it. And I would definitely go back to that my life is my message, right? That I don't believe that to have a message you have to be perfect. Like, not at all. Like, I think the legacy, I feel like I associate legacy with message in my head somehow. But I do think that legacy is more, I remember Oprah saying this in a video, it's like the lives that you've touched. And I think I see it that way. It's like, legacy is the lives that you've touched. And I think, if I were to not exist anymore for whatever reason, like, I do think that I've already built a very strong legacy. I don't think legacy is something that for me personally, I'm not doing what I'm doing because I'm building my legacy. I'm doing what I'm doing because this is what I'm called to do right now. And I think that's my legacy, that I'm not waiting to one day have a legacy. And I don't think that's something that you wait for. I think it's something that you're building as you go. So I love the work that you do. I love every human that is creating a life, trying to help others, live their message or have a message that they want to live by. Be more empowered, overcome their voices, their childhood or their trauma, whatever it is. It's all worth it because, I do think that we can leave a much more positive and empowering blueprint, and I do what I do for every girl that's ever felt like a doormat, that they didn't matter, or that they were good girls, and because of that label, they let everybody go before them, and they would put themselves down without even knowing, and like, that's my life, that this woman that now speaks and gives other women strength and stuff. It's maybe other people saw me like that for many years. I didn't see myself like that at all. So I do think it's something that if you feel like you're working towards it every day, like your legacy is today, your legacy is something that you're building every day, it gives you more power, it gives you more fire, it gives you more passion, and it gets me out of bed every morning. I mean, I dream of, like, this weekend I had such a shitty weekend in terms of energy and emotions. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, and I don't know when this recording will air, but there's like all this stuff going on in the world as far as like for empaths and sensitives like me, like the full moon and solar flares and all this stuff and retrogrades and PMS. And so I called it like cosmic PMS.
Yeah.
And that was like, that's exactly what I felt like. I can typically, have emotions or feel insecure or have overwhelm and process it very fast. And then suddenly I found myself feeling all kinds of insecurities and fears, not my typical self, definitely not my typical self. And I was just like, going back to what I said at the beginning of this call, vented, released, talked to somebody enough times until I felt better. And I forgot what I was going to say with all this, but something about, it's like legacy. What was it talking about? Legacy.
Yeah, your legacy, and like it's like a day-to-day thing, right? How you live out your life on a daily basis.
Yeah, and again, like, doesn't require you to remember everything you've said. It doesn't require you to be perfect. No, not at all. I'm sure it'll come to me pretty quick what I was trying to say, but no, it's like I think it's if I didn't think the way I think now, I would have gotten stuck and be like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. See, I'm a leader of this, thousands of women, and like, I can't seem to get it together. But what I did is I processed it, and then I shared a very powerful message about your responsibility as a way shower to show everything. Because if not, then you're contributing to the world's suicides and the world's crisis on mental health, because you're helping the world suppress themselves. You don't want to show a perfect path for your kids, like, because that's not real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, like, suppression equals depression equals, self-questioning, self-doubts, anxiety, panic, you name it. And that's why I'm so committed to my journey of like living life out loud fully, with all its waves, of, expansion, contractions, all of it. That's how I infinitely receive, because I'm receiving at every stage of the game, not just sometimes, all the time. There's so much to be had and received from crisis or insecurities or fears. And I think if we stop, like suppressing or pushing up against, like, no, like if we started accepting circumstances more and being grateful for them instead of like beating ourselves up, like, see, why did you attract this jerk into your life? Why did you forget to pay the water? I would show you my water slip here because they almost cut it off last week. I've been traveling so much, I forgot to pay it.
Yeah.
It's the one thing I don't have an auto pay. Hello. Does it make me less, like, does it lose, does it make me lose credibility or respect or something? No. And if you feel that way about me, that's awesome. Like, don't have anything against you feeling less love for me because I told you I almost got my water cut because I forgot to pay it again. It's life, people, life.
Yeah.
It totally is. So I think, I want my legacy to be what I remember now. What I wanted to say is that what gets me out of bed every morning, which is that I want the girls, not to think that they have to be perfect or look a certain way to be loved or to be accepted or to be promoted or to have success or to have six figures. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to follow a certain formula or a certain strategy to have that level of impact. I've found more impact in being all of myself, crazy and all, than when I was trying to do what my $2,500 a month coach told me to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have found more success, more happiness, more freedom in throwing out the rules and just living out my life my way. And to this day, that's how I launch. That's how I run my business. I mean, not to brag or anything, but I'm on track to this month, maybe in the next 4 weeks, to have met the same level of revenue I had last year in December, which was $500,000. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and I have not, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, is it a lot sometimes? Yes. But, my stamina has grown, my team has grown, and I didn't plan it. Like, I've just allowed it. And even today, I just texted my business manager. I was like, okay, in full faith, let's go ahead and pay this, because it's like this big payouts for my live event, for this team member after team member, bill after bill after bill. So it doesn't stop. It's like with kids, like it never stops. You're like, oh, out of the toddler stage, oh, there's this new stage. Oh, out of this stage, now it's the teenage stage. It doesn't stop. And how do you meet those waves?
Yeah.
Meet them with authenticity, vulnerability. When you open up about it, you'll know that everybody has dealt with something similar, and everything feels better again.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all of that. I mean, I love you, clearly. And we're gonna wrap this up, just because I know that you have a busy schedule, and thank you so much for your time.
Oh
And
my
this has
gosh,
been amazing, so
yes.
amazing.
I hope so many
And
people watch
so
this interview.
they, with their takeaways, believe that, your dreams are for you. Like, it's possible for you to have that. And, this idea of authenticity, right? Like, be yourself. Like, don't stop trying to be someone else, or, have to feeling like you have to follow the rules. Like, tune into who you are, and you will be able to receive like all the blessings from God and the universe and everything that's meant for you.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Maru, so much.
Thank you, Carmen,
thank you all for tuning in. And my heart is so full of gratitude and joy right now. I love speaking with you. I love your work. And so thank you so much.
I love you too. And I'm so glad you guys are tuning in and listening to all these incredible, powerful women, talk about this stuff, because all the topics are relevant, and we can't get enough support, really. Like, get all the support that you need. And thank you for spreading this message. And we do have a gift for you. So make sure that I think it's like the 43 most common blocks to receiving. So we didn't get to talk about specifically the ways that we go about blocking ourselves and shrinking. But that little link that I believe will be sent with the interview will help you take a peek inside to see where, you're defaulting to in terms of receiving or not receiving.
Yeah. And then Maru actually has a free Facebook group that you can join if you want to know more. She does amazing lives, lots of good content in there. So make sure you jump on there. And it's just Infinite Receivers.
The Infinite Receivers Club.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
You too.
See you soon. Bye.